Well, good morning, everyone. It is the live Super Doppler for Alert Day. Want to kind of cut in here and just give you an update as to what we're seeing right now. Of course, it's a big day, first snow in 3 years, and on top of that, we've got the potential for ice later this afternoon. Here's a live look over Lake Hartwell. Look at that. You can see the snow flurries, big snowflakes, by the way. I've been watching this for the past, 20, 30 minutes. In fact, if I step out of the way, look at that up against the trees. You can see that. Isn't that really just nice to see Lake Hartwell getting some snowfall all around that area, by the way? And thank you so much for your pictures and reports. We're getting lots of it across parts of the upstate. Here's a live look at where Asheville, not seeing any snowfall here right now. A live look in Lawrence and not seeing any snowfall right now. That will change. In fact, notice as we take a look at live Super Doppler 4 radar, it looks like it's snowing in Lawrence and it looks like it's snowing at least north of Asheville, but the air mass is still dry. The dew points, the moisture in the air, it's still just a little too dry, but it's warming up. It's getting enough moisture that some of these snowflakes now in light snowfall is finding its way down to the ground. Abbeville, lots of good snow pictures there in Greenwood as well. Absolutely love that. Belton, due west, Ware Shoals, getting some reports of some flurries even into Fountain Inn. So we do have a little bit of light snow right now across parts of the upstate. Hasn't really spread as much as it will. Remember, it's only 9:30. Really expecting it to kind of move in over the next couple of hours. In fact, we've got a nice band or a nice swath of snow just exiting parts of northeast Georgia and just about to head into the upstate and western North Carolina. So a lot more snow to come. It's still early. As we go into 12:30 or so, we're going to continue to see this snowfall move across most, if not all of the area. And then right after that, right after lunchtime, all eyes on this pink, the sleet and freezing rain mixing in with rain and even snow at times. That line is going to move to the north right along that I-85 corridor. Remember that sleet and freezing rain could cause some ice accumulation and very likely will, especially south of I-85 and northeast Georgia. As we take a look at tonight, 11:30, 12 o'clock, 1 a.m., it's going to start to wrap up, I think, by 2, 3, 4 a.m. Saturday morning. Most, if not all of it, should be over with, then clearing skies for Saturday and Sunday. But for the rest of the morning, we're looking at snowfall, and then this afternoon, we're going to be looking at that mix heading our way, and that's when things go downhill pretty quickly on the roadways. So again, if you don't have to be out and about today, we highly recommend you do not do that. How much snow will fall? Still going to squeeze out at least an inch, 2 inches, more than that across parts of western North Carolina, a little bit less than that in places south of I-85. Remember, that's accounting for some of that sleet, all that moisture being condensed. How much ice will fall? Well, or accumulate, I should say. I think most of us will get right here, about 1/10 of an inch of ice, and I think more of us will have pockets where we see more, like closer to 1/4 of an inch or more. That's going to be anywhere right along I-85, especially and south of there. So again, if you can avoid travel, please do that. If you have to go to work this morning, please try and leave early. We'll be back with more updates for you as we go throughout the morning, and of course, live at 11 o'clock again today. Well, good morning, everyone. It is a live Super Doppler for Alert Day. What you're looking at right now, it's hard to see. We've got some snowflakes actually frozen to the camera, but this is a live look over Lake Hartwell. You can kind of see in the corner there some of those flurries flying around, getting lots of reports around Clemson and Anderson and Abbeville, getting some snowfall, which is pretty nice to see. Now, here's a look at Lawrence. We've got a lot of clouds out there, but we are dry, so no snow just yet. We're cold enough, though. 32 degrees in Lawrence right now, 31 in Greenville, 32 in Pickens, it's freezing, and 28 degrees in Asheville. What I'm watching very closely right now is the dew points. You don't often hear us talk about this, but dew points measure moisture in the atmosphere, and to get that snow from the clouds to the ground, believe it or not, you have to have enough moisture in the atmosphere. So when we're talking about dew points in the 20s, getting closer to the actual temperature, well, that's enough to see some of it fall. So while Holly, you've seen some parts of Clemson and Anderson, Lawrence, as soon as it reaches you, you should start to see some of that fall as well, Abbeville and Greenwood. However, up in Asheville, that area is still pretty dry, so it's going to take a little bit longer. So we're running into some dry air as expected, but this will quickly overpower that. And yeah, we're still expecting lots of snowfall today. It is just now mid-morning after all, so here's that time frame where more of us will begin to see some of that snow across the area. We'll get you in a little bit closer here. You can see Promised Land and Abbeville. Good morning to you, Greenwood. Again, all of these locations have either sent in pictures or are reporting, hey, snow is reaching the ground. It's light snow, but it is snow after all. Greenwood as well. Look at this, back into Elberton and Hartwell, seeing lots of pictures and reports in your area as well, and Anderson. So as we go throughout the next couple of hours here, we're going to continue to see that snowfall right up until that lunchtime. And then if you live south of I-85, we're talking about extremely south, like Greenwood and Abbeville and Elberton. These are the areas right around 1, 2 o'clock that we'll start to see some sleet mixing in with some of this snow or freezing rain, and that line moves north across I-85, that I-85 corridor around 4, 5, 6 o'clock, and then look at what happens at 7 o'clock. We're looking at a nice mix, not as much snow, and then returning to snowfall as we go into 8, 9, 10 o'clock tonight as it begins to wrap up. So right around midnight, we should start to see that subside pretty nicely. So across the mountains, we're looking at more snow than anything. You might get a quick hit of some sleet or freezing rain, but for the most part, it is going to be just snow. Keep it right here. We'll keep you updated on the weather and a whole lot more throughout the morning.
So 7:05 now, good morning to you. We've been following breaking news all throughout the morning. Obviously, our live Super Doppler 4 alert day as well. We know now Georgia Governor Brian Kemp is providing an update on the latest weather in Georgia.
Governor Kemp is about to speak. Let's go ahead and listen in live.
Obviously got Director Stallings, Georgia Emergency Management Agency, and his team here with us at the SOC this morning. Commissioner McMurray, Georgia DOT, Lieutenant Colonel Kendrick Lowe with the Georgia State Patrol, Colonel Hitchens and the rest of the DPS crew are out and about, as you can imagine, all over the state, very busy this morning, as is Commissioner Walter Rabin and the DNR teams that we have out. And then we got Will Langston, our weather guru, with us that's going to have a lot for you here in just a few minutes. So we'll let all these guys give you an update. I just wanted to first talk about what we've been doing the last few days. Obviously, GMA has been tracking the weather system all week and preparing for the storm. We've had heavy coordination, obviously, with our state and local partners. I issued a state of emergency yesterday to ensure we would be prepared to let us get ahead of the storm and be ready to go into action. And GMA stood up the State Operations Center where we are now. Also have been in direct communications with Mayor Dickens and the City of Atlanta, a lot of our local elected officials, preparing and coordinating with them as well. DOT obviously has been out treating our roads leading up to the weather this morning. Department of Natural Resources has 6 task force teams and 12 strike teams that are on standby ready to respond for any potential road debris clearing, public safety assistance, and other needs. DNR has also been preparing the state parks for those who need shelter or warming stations, especially our parks located in the North Georgia mountains are currently near capacity. So just a bit of advice there. If you're looking for a place, you may want to go south versus north if you can. Local warming stations have been activated as well, and we'll certainly continue to monitor and respond as needed throughout this weather event. One note I wanted to have just on the state of emergency, we did not include the National Guard because they were already called up this week for training exercises, so they are in action doing training. So if we have the need to engage and deploy the National Guard, really it will just take a quick signature and we can get them moving if needed. With that, I'm going to let Director Stallings give you guys an update on the GMA side of things, and we'll go to Commissioner Murray with DOT, Lieutenant Colonel Lowe with Public Safety, and we'll let Will wrap us up with the weather update, and then we'll take your questions. Director.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Well, good morning, and first of all, thank you, Governor Kemp. As always, your support. Signing the state of emergency early allows us to start those planning missions and things that we need. We're not shocked. Will has given us a great report. We work very closely with NWS, certainly Peachtree City, and we thank them for their partnership, allowing us to get together a plan. As mentioned, we started preparations early The one thing that you can't do with snow and ice is get behind it. You have to constantly stay in front of it, and so we've worked very hard to ensure that was happening. Commissioner McMurray will talk more about their efforts here in just a few minutes, but I want to publicly say how much we appreciate their efforts. Their teams have been out there working extremely hard. If you've been out there at all this morning, or you've been watching any reports or seen any views of the interstate, you can tell a significant difference. I know one question you're probably going to ask in a few minutes is, how is this different? I think you've seen how it's different than what we experienced in 2014, and the biggest thing is that we have learned a lot of lessons, so we've stayed in front of it. We've not allowed the disabled vehicles to stay stranded on the roadway. We are getting reports of those, but we're being extremely proactive to ensure that we're getting those out of the way. Commissioner McMurray and his team have put down a lot of brine, and he'll go into those details, and they're working very diligently. And I think what you're seeing out there is a culmination of a lot of effort and teamwork. So we're very proud of the teamwork that the state has done, and we appreciate you listening to the warnings of staying off the roads. You'll see that the traffic is a lot less, which allows the teams to be able to do the job they're asked to do, which is clear the roads and get it free so that our emergency responders can do what they need to do. Throughout the rest of the day, what you're going to see from our team is we're constantly monitoring the changes that we anticipate. And as the governor mentioned, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes, but we do anticipate a transition. With that, there will be possibly the loss of power, trees down, things like that. So we're working very closely with the Forestry Commission, our DNR partners, to make sure we have cut teams ready so that we can get fire rescue in as we need, or any type of electrical responders in as well to ensure we get power. We also pre-positioned a lot of response items for GWES. So we have generators, blankets, we have food, water, things of that nature, so that if we need to deploy those things to hurt areas, we can do that very quickly. We appreciate the partnership, and as always, Governor, we can't do it without your support, so thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn it over to Commissioner McMurray so he can give you an update on GDOT and all the hard work they're doing.
Thank you, Director Stallings. I do appreciate the governor issuing the state of emergency early, and GMA taking an early lead to coordinate all our work. We started on Wednesday applying brine, the pre-treatment necessary to keep this first bit of frozen precipitation from freezing to the roadway. In fact, we've brined over 20,000 miles of roadway from Macon on I-75 to Tennessee, and I-20 from Alabama to South Carolina, and everything above north of that line of where we're seeing this winter weather come in initially. In addition to that, we spot treated bridges and overpasses with over 770 tons of salt, again, trying to get this pre-treatment application so that what you're seeing now with the snow that's come down, that it doesn't bond and stick to the road, which puts us in the position of now where we are. Where we are now is to plow the roads. We're going to try to, again, get a couple of lanes passable, plowing the slush and the snow that's out there off to the side such that we can retreat with brine and salt and sand mixture later, as this frozen precipitation is supposed to come in a little later now and a little later today, so that, again, we keep a barrier from the freezing precipitation of whatever form that is from sticking to the road. So that's where we are. We've got over 300 snow plows out, actively working now with 600 people engaged, and we are 24/7 until this event subsides and everything's safe. I do want to again acknowledge Director Stallings' comments about stalled vehicles. Again, if you can stay off the roads, please stay off the roads. Our heroes and champs are working significant amount of spin outs and people just losing control. Again, where the roadway is sort of, the path is clear, it's good. Where it's slushy, remember to slow down, drive very conservatively, no hard braking, and no quick maneuvers of the steering wheel, because it is slick. Even though it's not bonded to the pavement, it's still slush and it's still slick. As always, if you have an incident that's a non-emergency, call 511 anywhere in the state for a hero assistance or champ assistance so somebody can come help you, because we want to get you safely off the roadway and safely on your way. As we do anticipate ice accumulation this afternoon, as Director Stallings talked about, this becomes even more treacherous. So that's, therefore, please again, stay off the roadways, because if this starts glazing up, it is very hard to treat. We're going to do our part to get ahead of it, but if it sits down, and especially overnight into tomorrow morning, it can be very dangerous. So please give our crews room to work, and we're going to do our best and continue to do our best to get the roads open safely as quick as possible. Now I'd like to turn it over to Lieutenant Colonel Lowe with Georgia State Patrol.
Thank you, Commissioner McMurray. We placed all of our personnel on Phase A since it started. We've been assisting GDOT with the Brine truck escorts throughout the state, and we will continue to assist them until this is over. We placed personnel to work 24 hours to be out on the roadway checking for stranded motorists and working crashes as needed. And we're going to continue to do this throughout, assisting DOT with more trucks. If they put more trucks out, we're going to be out there to assist them with wherever they're needed during the storm.
All right, and then we'll close with letting Will give you a weather update, and we got the right map up there, Will. You work off that?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Just want to start by thanking our partners at the National Weather Service and our local media outlets for communicating this forecast really well to the public. We have already seen at least a few inches of snow in a lot of parts of north and central Georgia. It's going to continue on and off through the rest of the morning and the afternoon. We do expect to see a transition to some freezing rain later this morning and the afternoon, and that could cause some ice accumulation to form on top of the snow that's already fallen, which will make it that much harder to melt when the rain moves in later. The temperatures are hovering right around the freezing mark, if not just below. And so, like the Governor and Commissioner McMurray said, the roads could continue to be difficult and hazardous throughout the day. If we do see some of that ice accumulation occurring on the roads, or if we see some of the liquid that's falling freeze later because the temperatures aren't getting much above freezing, that would make the roads that much more difficult to drive on. The precipitation should continue through this evening, ending by about midnight, but will stay hovering around the freezing mark all the way through tomorrow afternoon, by which point the temperatures will fall after sunset tomorrow to below freezing, bottoming out in the upper teens to lower 20s by Sunday morning. So if anything is not melted and dried by the time the sun goes down tomorrow, there's a good likelihood that it's going to refreeze by Sunday morning. Finally, let me just mention the winds. We are expecting not significant winds, but it doesn't take much to bring trees and power lines down with this much snow and ice. We're expecting 10 to 15 mile per hour winds gusting to 20 or maybe a little bit more this afternoon and then again tomorrow, so we could continue to see some power outages as well.
And then just one couple other things before we go to the questions. We have Director Stallings, GMA, the opening of the State Operations Center. Obviously, we've been in touch with our power power partners out there, Georgia Power, our EMCs and others. They have pre-positioned assets, so everybody's set up, ready to go if we do get into that icing, heavy winds, trees down, knocking power lines down. So just know they're on standby. We appreciate them. And then also, just again, to wrap up what Director Stallings and the Commissioner and Will were talking about, this morning the snow was beautiful. If you were driving on it, it probably seemed pretty easy to do. That is changing as we speak with, freezing rain that may freeze, winds and other things coming in, and these temperatures sticking where they are versus creeping up to what we thought was going to happen, or what some models were saying would be up to 35 degrees today. We're not seeing that right now. I hope that happens, but if it does not, this rain that's on top of the snow, like Will was talking about, it's going to freeze. It's going to make driving a lot worse this afternoon than it is even right now, and right now is worse than it was this morning, which again is why we're asking people, if you don't need to get on the roads, don't get on them. If you're on them, try to find those lanes that we've been able to plow and potentially retreat later in the day, and just slow down and be very careful out there. And with that, we'll open it up for questions for any of us up here.
Commissioner McMurray, the downtown connector, as we view it on one of your cameras over your shoulder there, looks remarkable compared to what it was right about an hour ago. How often do you anticipate you're going to have to scrape down, plow the major thoroughfares?
So thank you for that question. We were first, and I should have said this earlier, we first start with our interstates. So we're going to plow the interstates. As you've seen, we've made the pass through the downtown connector initially with 2 lanes. We'll come back. If they get recovered due to continued precipitation, we're going to try to stay with at least 2 lanes as a pass, and then we'll try to catch additional lanes as we make loops. So we have the state broke into segments, so we have crews that just continue to work certain loops, the downtown connector being one of those. So we'll continue to be responsive as the accumulation continues to occur, but our main goal, again, is just trying to keep 2 lanes passable of the interstate first, then we try to catch the ramps, and after we do that, we sort of get off onto the secondary state route highways, the ones that connect to the interstate. So our first goal is, again, keeping the interstates operational, moving, interstates, ramps, and then state routes. So as I said, we pre-treated 20,000 miles of roadway initially. That means we have 20,000 miles of roads that have to be plowed. So it does take some time, and I hope everybody understands the expectation is we can't clear the roads immediately. We're going to make them passable, and then we'll keep coming back and continue this process until we do have everything clear.
Governor, the weather so far has borne out almost like it were scripted to what GMA Director Stallings prognosticated with us earlier this week. Talk about, if you would, how important it is to be prepared well in advance, and whether you've gone over and above, whether you've got extra stuff in reserve.
Yeah, well, normally it never happens like you predict it to. So we're, at least thankful that, we were prepared for what we thought the forecast was, and I think you can see we got ahead of the storm. It's hard to keep up with Mother Nature, but we're doing our best, and we got a lot of hard work in DOT, public safety, DNR, and other crews that are out there right now, and we'll continue to do that, like Commissioner McMurray said, 24/7. I want to thank the media and our citizens for just listening to the advice that we've been given over the last 24 to 48 hours about being prepared, being winter weather ready. Thank, our partners at our local governments, our schools, our corporate and business partners for heeding the advice that we were given. A lot of people are, not in the office today. Our schools are closed. When I got up this morning and it was snowing, I was like, I'm so glad we did what we did yesterday. If it hadn't been snowing, or if this weather had missed us, people may have been criticizing us. But look, from what we've seen in the past, it is better to be over-prepared than not in these situations. And I think the team's done a great job, and we've learned a lot of lessons over the years. And I again, just want to thank our citizens for heeding the advice that we've been giving them, ask them to continue to do that throughout the day. And also just thankful to all our media partners out there and people on social media that have been really spreading this message. I've heard a very consistent message all across all media outlets, and I think that's good for our citizens.
Director Stallings, since this is kind of going as you predicted, almost the worst case scenario, right? What are you expecting in terms of the severity of the ice, and how soon?
I think, as Will mentioned earlier, we'll see a transition sometime this afternoon, but because of the efforts of Commissioner McMurray and his team, and that goes back to lessons learned. I think any good plan comes from some losses. We had some losses back in 2014. We recognize those, and we've moved from that. The biggest reason we're successful, though, is because you, as the governor mentioned, have shared our message, and our citizens have listened. Give us a chance to clear the roads. If you give us a chance to clear the roads, it's much easier without the broken down vehicles, the disabled vehicles, or the vehicles that were just left sitting without anyone in them. So I think for us, what we'll see this afternoon is, yes, there will be a transition, but I think with the continued efforts from Commissioner McMurray's team, we'll be in a lot better place than we thought we could possibly have been. It's always good, unfortunately, having these going into the weekend, that there's less travel. Folks love a 3-day weekend, so I appreciate businesses giving those 3-day weekends, and we appreciate that. And for even the state offices being closed, it's just kept the extra traffic off the road, which is allowing us to do what we need to do.
And I think one thing too that's just for this afternoon, it's such a fine line with what we're dealing with, as Will was talking about. I mean, if it ends up being 34 degrees and it's raining, that'll help us this afternoon. If it ends up being 31 degrees and it's freezing rain or sleeting, it could cause huge problems on our roadways, but also with power outages. So that's why we're telling people just to, hang with us the rest of the day, be very cautious, stay off the roads if you don't absolutely have to until we can get this thing completely moved out of the state.
Colonel, you have any sense at this point of how many wrecks your folks are working?
When I looked at the CAT earlier today, the crash was down. We've had a lot of one-car spin out where people are lost control over the bridges, striking the guardrail, and tractor trailers not able to get up over certain overpasses and certain bridges. But our crash number, because of everyone being off work today, is less traffic, and that has caused us to, see a decrease in some crashes. But we do have the one-car spin out, no damage, and we get them going and they keep them moving.
And I think it was Commissioner McMurray who gave some driving advice, Colonel, but you find that a lot of people who have maybe all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive mistakenly think that's going to help them brake. It does not, does it?
It does not. Again, we try to encourage people to stay off the road as much as possible during this time. Slow down, leave room in between them and the car in front of them. That's what we would encourage them to do, is slow down. Because of the all-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, doesn't mean that you can just speed up and go around, other vehicles at a speed that's not safe.
Thank you very much. Will,
Russell.
can you, the governor spoke about that fine line. What's your sense of which side of that fine line we're coming down on?
Well, the temperatures, like I mentioned, are hovering at or below freezing. The models have been showing us getting a little bit above that this afternoon. It really remains to be seen because the more snow that's fallen, it actually acts to bring down the cold air from the upper atmosphere. So I think that's why we're seeing cooler temperatures than we thought we would. The hope is that as the rain moves from south to north throughout the day, that it'll bring a few degrees warmer weather. Where that line is, it's tough to say. It's gonna move from south to north throughout the day. So hopefully we can get temperatures in the mid-30s with a good rainfall this afternoon and melt some things out there.
Russell, you want to update the 285 tractor trailer?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Governor. Yes, our biggest traffic incident we have now, again with GSP and tow on the scene, is on I-75 South in Cobb County at the exit to 285. That's right at the Truist Park, Cumberland area. That ramp is closed, so we're messaging to people to go down to the next exit. You can still access 285 from the next exit down, but that is a big event. Again, 8 tractor trailers involved, 1 jackknife. Again, to the Lieutenant Colonel's point, is we've got to leave space. People need to slow down, especially in and around tractor trailers. Our hero units have worked 220 incidents this morning where there again, somebody spun out, somebody's on the side of the road that needs help. So that is numbers may be down, but that's still a significant event. We really want to make sure that we don't have to work those events. As the governor said, just stay off the roadways, especially this afternoon, evening, until we know what happens tomorrow.
Yes.
One thing it was possible not to notice on the way over here is some people not obeying traffic signals, stop signs, stuff like that. Could either GDOT or GSP talk about the importance of continuing to obey stop signs, stop lights, and follow traffic rules? And can you still get a ticket?
Yes. We encourage motorists to obey all the traffic laws still. Unless the light is out, and you treat it as a four-way, but a stop sign is a stop sign, and yes, you can be cited and will be if you're breaking the law in a reckless manner during this time.
Will we expect other updates throughout the day, Governor?
Yeah, look, we'll just see what this weather's doing. We'll certainly keep you updated. We'll be messaging on our social media. We'll be, obviously talking to you all individually, too, with updates, and if we have a need to do something else later on, we will. We're just going to watch this weather, and we'll keep you guys updated. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, Governor.
You've been listening to Georgia officials speak on an update on the state there. You know, one of the interesting takeaways for me, Commissioner McMurray with GDOT spoke and talked about just the amount of brine that they put down. They've treated 20,000 miles of roadway, including I-20 from Alabama to South Carolina. So obviously an area that many of our viewers, including people in eastern Georgia and South Carolina, commute on a regular basis. That said, they're saying stay off the roads if you can.
They absolutely are. And we were talking to Perella as we were watching this, and Perella shared with us that in Atlanta it is already switched over to freezing rain, right, Perella?
Yes,
Freezing rain in Atlanta, and that, of course, is a big concern in that highly congested area.
Yeah.
And they are, again, asking people to stay off the roads. We also want to share with you this live look. This is Helen, Georgia, and this is coming to us courtesy of Earth Cams. Helen in the northeastern part of the state of Georgia. Well, that excuse me, courtesy of Resort Cams. Helen in the northeastern part of the state of Georgia, and that just looks like a Christmas card.
It's beautiful. I mean, it looks like a movie, but that said, you know, like they said, stay off the roads. And one of the interesting things that they said in that briefing as well was just how they have to do it. You know, they talked about they've spot treated already. They want to get ahead of it. They don't, once they get behind it, you're behind it for a lot of the duration of the storm. So they're trying to get ahead to brine, to salt, to continue doing that. And it's hard to do that if people are on the roads. And so fortunately, hopefully, and it looked like they were so far, heeding that call to stay off the roads.
Officials in the state of Georgia calling their response to this snow there a culmination of teamwork and effort. They are saying they are getting reports of disabled vehicles on the roadways, and they're working very diligently to get them off the roads as quickly as possible. Again, because they want people, they want vehicles off those roads so that crews who need to be out there can work safely and quickly to keep those roads clear.
Yeah, and of course it's a live Super Doppler 4 alert day all across our area for that storm that's moving in right now. We'll hand things over to Perella Lewis with the latest. Perella.
I love those pictures of Helen, Georgia, the Bavarian town getting some snow. Very, very Hallmark-esque. By the way, Lake Hartwell, very Hallmark-esque as well. Look at those nice big flurries still falling. Not a whole lot of accumulation around here just yet, but nonetheless, we are getting some snow in parts of the upstate. We'll check in on Lawrence right now, downtown Lawrence. No snow there, and no snow in Asheville, even though it looks like it's snowing in parts of Asheville on our live Super Doppler 4 radar, and it looks like it's snowing in parts of Lawrence. It isn't just yet, but Walhalla, Toccoa, Hartwell, Elberton, we've gotten reports and seen pictures of some of the snowfall there, which is pretty neat to see. Just snow, right? As long as it's just snow, we're okay. Still expecting it to be snow this morning, and then it will be later today when we start to see that transition. We were talking about Atlanta earlier, much of Georgia. Look at that. Much of it has already transitioned to freezing rain. Notice that line, though, as it's entering into our area. We're still holding steady for just snow right now, but that's going to change right around lunchtime or shortly thereafter. We'll start to see that freezing rain and sleet begin to head our way, starting in southern parts of the upstate and northeast Georgia, and then that line heading north, right along that I-85 line or corridor, and a little further north. So, you know, if you're in Travelers Rest or Taylor's, you're in Spartanburg, Tigerville, you may get a brief round of some sleet or some freezing rain before that snow line gets pushed further to the south, and we kind of wrap things up in those areas as snow, very likely. This is up until midnight, 1, 2 a.m. We could see a few more flurries flying around, maybe still a little bit of that mix, but then that's it. After that, tomorrow we're looking at sunshine with temperatures going above freezing across much of the upstate, and not for the mountains, though. It's going to stay pretty cold. So if you're going to be out and about traveling at all this weekend, don't if you can avoid it. But if you are, just know those roadways are going to be icy. As we take a look at some of those snowfall totals, remember some of these picking up on some of that sleet coming our way later today and kind of adding that to the total. Again, the primary concern for us, for Georgia, continues to be the ice potential. Still looking at about 1/10 of an inch of ice for most of us. However, I do think there's going to be pockets really anywhere south of I-85 at this point could have 1/4 inch of ice or maybe a little bit more. So again, that's when you want to stay off roads, and that's when we have the best chance of seeing some of those spotty power outages. So we're going to stay freezing today for the most part. We might get a degree or two above that briefly and then back down to freezing. But tomorrow and Sunday, we will get above freezing, which is going to be nice. So we'll see some of this melt, and then we'll go back into those really cold overnight lows and things refreeze again. We'll be back with more updates for you coming up in just a little while. Right now, we'll return you to our regularly scheduled programming.